Dearest Yari, what are you dancing today?
Um, I am dancing a slow sensing. I am dancing heaviness, um, but today also dance is also dancing me.
Mm, last week I was
Um,
working with Benjamin Polig, and we were trying to answer the question, how does an anarchist dance? And one of the things Benny was interested in was dancing the dance that is already dancing you, as if the dance
mm,
you become a vessel for the dance that is already there. But I'm actually dancing a lot of dance at the moment. So on Saturday, I was at Mayerling, Mayerling, the ballet at the Royal Opera House here in London. Do you know this ballet
mhm.
by Kenneth Macmillan?
No, actually, I mean I know the title, but I don't know
It's
much about it.
beautiful. It's three acts. It has so many pas de deux. Such a big cast as well, or at least they made it look
Mm,
like a big cast. It was really great. And it's about the murder suicide of one of the Habsburg Empire princes before the First
mm,
World War, I think. But yeah, it was really, really powerful. So much, um, so much drug taking, sex, death. Yeah, very interesting ballet. And then I was with Neil Paris yesterday morning, with him dancing with his practice that he does every week. Um, no big ideas, it's called. And then in the evening,
mm.
last night, I was watching um, Matter Matter's Era by Tim Spooner. So I've been, I feel like I'm full of many different people's dances. And of course,
Wow.
last week, Sarah Merck's Day came out. So think um, I'm still with her, with her day somehow.
Mm.
Mm.
Wow. But I mean, but this week came out the new episode, your workshop.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So what were we talking about? Improvisation and its
yeah, and
improvisation's needs for limit.
exactly. Oh, it's so interesting because um I sometimes I do feel I really have this need for limits almost as a life score.
Mm,
Mm. So
yeah.
that I do feel maybe I use it too much in my life. So somehow it's become always like putting limits as a way to as you speak also becoming free or exploring
Mm,
a parts of life that I didn't know or the exploring part of
Mm.
uh, moving through life that I didn't know, or ways of moving through life that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm expanding so much, so sadly. But I wanted to, yeah, I wanted to point out that it's so,
What did you say? I missed this last part that you said. And
uh,
are
I
you missing
glitched,
me
I
now?
think. Can you
Yeah.
repeat?
I was asking if you
Yeah.
could repeat because you you glitched.
Ah, yeah, I just I just said that it is such a powerful tool,
Yeah.
and I think it's a bit also inherently to my dance background as a general, in the
Mm,
sense that sometimes also within a company, within a group,
mm,
um, I would go around. Maybe it's not exactly the same things, but like I would just see what people would kind of feel in already, and then I would take this part. I would limit myself to a part
yeah.
that was not actually used. Uh,
Mm.
and so sometimes I do like life experiment where I'm like, okay, now I don't do this
Yeah. Yeah.
and see what happens. Um, so yeah, I don't know why I start so expanded, but
No, it's nice because I mean, for me, I start almost sort of listening to it again. I was like, oh, does improvisation exist? You know? And I mean, and of course, this is coming from the way I'm treating choreography as something that is quite inclusive, that it's something that is quite emancipatory. It's not the ruler, it's not the choreographer only. It's um it's the informal, it's the implicit, it's the tacit, all sort of mm, playing a role in choreography, all adding up to the sum amount of what choreographs. And because of that, I think, when I ask these questions around limitations in improvisation, I start to wonder, um, does the improvisation without limits exist? You know, especially dance improvisation. Even last week, I was starting to ask the question, is dance limitation? Is Could you make a definition of dance which is that it is restriction, it is a type of paralysis. Can't say that word.
paralysis. Oh wow.
We limit ourselves in different sort of rhythmic, um, spatial, um, bodily ways, and it's and that sense of limitation. I wonder if that gives us a strong sense of dancing.
Mm.
Um,
Are you also speaking about something we have been speaking a bit? It was about like how to be specific, or
mm,
this that being specific means taking out stuff, and then suddenly it means also isolation,
yeah,
and
yeah,
isolating an aesthetic or a way of moving, rhythms.
yeah. I don't quite remember, but the isolation thing I remember.
Yeah, I think it was in the same episode. We spoke about, or I was bringing up maybe these things that isolated means um, focusing on something
Yeah,
and disconnect that to the rest of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I mean, often people say, or there's a sense that I hear that dance is attention, which is a little bit like that, right? Attending, isolating,
Mhm.
being exclusively attending, isolating
Very good.
one's perception. But obviously, like it also broadens as well, right? The by isolating or attending the body, one is becoming more aware than one was before of the body. Um, I think, I mean, in that mix, there is, of course, some sort of like notion of utilitarianism, but I don't like to go there because it assumes then dance has no utility, which I don't think is quite true. I think well-being and
Mm.
feeling and excitement and joy and stuff like obviously can have a utility. So, but no, definitely like, and then it makes me wonder if maybe mm, is a restriction? Like it, like what do we mean by restriction? Because of course at some point I talk about does the rule restrict or does it generate movement or is it generative,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah.
And if it's generative, then how can it restrict? Mm.
Hmm.
But
Well,
we
but it
yeah
started as a restriction.
yeah right
It's a bit like as entering oh, I don't know how it's called. How when when you want to change bottles, water bottles to another water bottle, and you use this code.
a funnel yeah
A phono, yeah,
yeah
it's entering a phono. I mean, you enter the
yeah
phono in a little, and
yeah
suddenly it expand.
yeah yeah
Because I do think it's that's the movement that produce more movement.
mm. I mean I always find like closing the eyes is one of the clearest examples of limitations in dance.
Mm.
Like you close the eyes and no longer you can use your sight as like a way to navigate your movement and to orchestrate your movement, which allows you to become more creative or have to be creative. You have to solve the problems. And maybe that's the sort of the that's the crux, right? Like when we say generative, we mean like critical and creative. So by um, by say closing the eyes, one has to solve the problems that have arrived, and so through limitation, one is it encounters a problem that they have to overcome, and the overcoming of the problem is a creative and critical act on how one would normally behave or move or so then it has this sense of creativity um,
Yeah.
criticality. Mm. Yeah, maybe that's
Hmm.
just it. Maybe it's just as simple as it's problem solving. So, of course, if you put a limitation, if you put a restriction on the regular way of doing things, then you have to solve problems in order to continue moving or continue experiencing.
Hmm.
Mm.
So somehow problems are
Well, problem solving. Because
uh,
so that's often connected, I think I've seen it connected to creativity, that creativity is or a problem solving is a type of creativity or something like this, um, where there's yeah, there's a sort of task. But I mean it, I think mm, But you know, in the thing I say, there's restrictions all the time, right? We're not. There's always some kind of restriction. But when the restriction is clear, it becomes easier to tackle, maybe. Whereas there are limitations to
All
how we
right.
can move. Maybe that morning we are tired, or you know, we're not as flexible as we want to be, or mm, we are cold, so we need to wear more clothes, which is a limitation perhaps, or mm,
But at the same time, wearing more clothes could be also more sensations. Could
yeah,
be more subtly, more texture on your
yeah,
skin. Could be a feeling of heaviness that usually you don't have, or
mm, mm,
could be so much more. And suddenly, yeah, I mean, it's interesting how tasks and scores give directionalities, you know? So, but
mm,
what there is a difference between directionalities and limitation somehow.
mm,
Sometimes it feels direction, sometimes it feels limitation. And in both way, in limitation is just the first step. It's as we spoke, a
yeah,
limitation.
yeah,
And directionality is more like, okay, out of everything, the world entire, is what you, actually how you start the podcast. It's like out of everything, that's the direction we are taking.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, actually, the I think also what I'm trying to maybe think about when I wrote this workshop was often improvisation is like synonymous with freedom. And I think by posing the question of is improvisation, does improvisation need limits? And sort of asking, uh, can improvisation ever be free, or is freedom even a good measure by which to understand improvisation? Uh, because freedom from what? Freedom to do what? Um,
Right. And
when
that's the
when
point.
yeah, exactly. Like
Mm.
with especially in dance improvisation, you're always going to be relating to dance somehow. Like so there's already a limitation. You're not going to be doing, I mean, you could, I was going to say you're not going to be doing typing, like tax returns. But if you did, then you would have to do the tax returns uh, through the imaginarium or through the framing of dance for it to exist within a dance improvisation. So there's this sort of im not impossibility, but like freedom doesn't really help us understand what we are doing and what we are playing with when we are um,
Mm.
improvising. And I think it's perhaps there, and that that it's interesting, but there's a distinct difference between set material and improvised material,
Uh,
at least like on a sensorial level, like we feel the difference. Mm,
uh, um, I wanted to be on that point of
of freedom.
right, but mostly like giving an improvisation that is just improvised. And of course, you use
Yeah,
this a lot. You use
yeah,
this as a different though, observing when you improvise without task, what you improvise to,
yeah, yeah,
basically, no? For example, but as a starting point, but also I for beginners, it's very difficult to ask just to move.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's such an impossibility, you know, and you maybe
yeah,
also speak a bit, you know, somehow, but not only because as a professional, there
yeah.
was a period where I completely lost any feeling for dance.
Oh
And
wow.
one of the cause was because it was so much about improvising without maybe clear task or like
mm, mm,
or and I'm speaking about this in a production oriented project.
hmm,
So where it's
hmm,
just about creating movement and difficult to kind of divide well which kind of movement aesthetics or systems I have to use in this.
mm,
So that is a bit the same, like giving a score or giving direction and so on.
yeah, yeah,
But sometimes I am in front of choreographer that, and I don't fully understand
yeah,
which register they ask me to be busy with.
yeah,
And because this, then I might lose, because I mean, as a dancer, I have to be busy with a sort of interest.
yeah,
Whatever I like or not what we do, I have to kind of be attached to the material in
yeah,
order to the audience to
yeah,
actually enjoy or to access what I am doing.
yes, yeah,
And this sometimes I lost. Sometimes I kind of like both. There was nothing
yeah,
because it was just a blah 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 to me.
yeah. And in fact, actually, when I was trying to like sort of devise criteria around improvisation, I think that was one of the things I kept returning to was exactly like as long as you look committed or interested or you have the ability to find value in the dancing, then you're you're kind of succeeding at improvisation. Like then like yeah, sure we can make sort of aesthetic criteria and criteria around compositional techniques and choices. But first and foremost, if you're constantly dropping out of your interest for what you're doing, or if I see that you are yeah uncommitted to what you're doing somehow, like even if you're choosing to improvise with a very lazy body, there should still be a desire or like a sense of like committing to the lazy body. Um, yeah, I don't know. Uh, it's really great you bring this up, and it's really relevant in those processes where you're asked to do that as a job as well, right? You're sort of what you're being asked to sort of conjure interest and meaning as a sort of in a professional capacity. And I think isn't one of the difficulties perhaps the thing of you're sensing there is a correct way of moving, but you're not sure what it is. You don't know the register, you don't know the aesthetic regime, or you're unsure about it. And then there's this withdrawal or fear of doing the wrong steps. Is that is that what
Yeah,
you?
yeah, it's both. It's a negotiation between what I can find interesting, what the what what the choreographer want to go,
Mm,
but also probably the most powerful thing is what are the values
mm,
unspoken,
mm, yeah,
in that sense.
yeah,
Because maybe is, as you said, the friction with the fact that I can't understand totally the regime of
mm,
aesthetics,
mm,
then it's the finding that it's also what makes interesting what I'm
yeah,
doing to me
yes,
and maybe also
yeah,
to the choreographer
yeah.
or and probably to the audience too, maybe. But but
And isn't the hideous nature of this relationship? You have this choreographer and you have this dancer, and in some way, the choreographer has chosen you for you. So whatever you do should be valuable. You know, like this is especially if they're asking you, oh, just improvise, because there should be some sense of like trust, like, oh, but whatever you do should be mm, like should be. And sometimes there's this sort of like gap, of course, where you start to think, get the sensation like, are they, but you don't know me fully. Otherwise, what I am doing, you would be happy with. Like when the choreographer starts to sort of like find a friction or is dis unhappy. And yet there's also something kind of like inherently fraught in that relationship, because if dance is um is a conversation with like the norms of dance, it's if it's like a critical and creative dialogue with our collective felt sense of dance or understanding of dance, then even for the choreographer, they're going to be challenged and put into uncomfortable situations if you're inviting the dancer to sort of play in that space of questioning what dance is and can be and so on. And there's this sort of like paradox. The choreographer is asking, wants you to challenge their notion of dance, but challenge it in a way that they're comfortable with going to, that it's not too far from removed from where they're comfortable with representing, because that's ultimately what's at stake for them, is their identity of their taste, their aesthetic, their regime, their ability to represent the dance that sort of occurs. But it's a huge interplay of relationships and dialogues around this sort of acceptability of what can be considered or practiced as dance. And I think when I hear you speaking and when I recognize myself in that place, I feel a sense of exhaustion of this game of negotiation of the values of dance, and a desire to just sit still almost and mm, not have the choreographer choose me for choose me to be the one who challenges the the space of dance for them, and for them to decide whether or not that's comfortable for them or not. Yeah, I'd rather they do the work. Or that sounds like also like maybe uh, what can help that situation is if the choreographer does that work of radicalizing dance for the dancer before, and not ask the dancer to do it for them prior to the thing. Yeah, because it's not free. That's what you're saying as well, isn't it? When you say you're asked to improvise and you're then sort of having to second guess, like, oh, what, but where can I improvise? You're not absolutely free to do whatever.
A good question. But I'm going still into the like, I want to see specific dances. I
Mm,
want to see some craft of
mm,
the body,
mm,
yes, of the
mm,
ideas, of the tension
mm,
that is so specific to that dance.
mm,
I'm like, I want to see this. I don't want, mostly today in such a globalized bodies we have.
yeah.
And that's like, everybody has everyone has something there that is able to skills to reimagine, to imagine, to deconstruct, to construct, and so
Mm,
on. And I don't want to see a performance that feels like another million of performances. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter in terms of aesthetic. I'm not saying it's just the feeling. So it means also attention. It means can
yeah,
be anything. It's not about, oh, I saw that already. It's more like
yeah,
it's more like, oh, I want this special moment, maybe. But
yeah.
maybe it's wrong what I'm saying also. I don't know. Maybe it's a
No,
sort of
I mean,
neoliberal
no.
idea. I don't know. No, I'm just like,
No, no, no. I don't think you're wrong. I think it's nice that you try to articulate like what you desire when watching dance and what you desire to see and feel. Um, I think it's healthy because half of I think half of our practice as dancers is understanding how we're relating to what dance is and when it works for us and when it doesn't work for us, and that must also include watching, especially if we're going to work as dancers who present dance in that form,
exactly.
right? No, but it's interesting. Also, what you say of this this global body, you want specificity, accuracy, mm, eh, because yeah, I was thinking. I also have like a sort of a relationship that is sort of like I'm not sure where it is. So it's nice that you describe it so pointedly. Like I had it for a long time, I was like in a creative process. mm, I liked the idea that rather than going towards something really specifically, that you keep on generating more and more fields um, of material, like working around the center or the heart of the subject that the dance is about. So then when you're performing it, you have this like rich knowledge rather than the sort of how I was taught to sort of improve the step and keep on getting closer and closer to what it is. Like that's wrong, just here, like trying to balance something really carefully. And so I sort of was like, ah, actually, I prefer this idea that we expand, so we're creating more and more knowledge around it. So we do the wrong things in order to get knowledgeable about where exactly the right thing is. So when we perform, we have that. So I had that. And then recently I found myself also desiring that um, performances, especially try to center one idea, a single idea, that they don't bring several ideas. They just have one single thing. It doesn't mean there can't be a lot of material, to express that single idea. It can have that multiple entries and um, complexity, but that there is something that is sort of drawing a thread through the whole thing that is in focus. And if if something detracts from that, then for me that became less interesting. I would be like, let's try and get rid of those things and just present one thing, because already dance is quite hard to read. So if because we have this brilliant sort of framing that the performance starts and then it ends, let's use that to it in and take advantage of it and just provide one thing to be with, so that once we've finished, we feel like we've really spent time with something, rather than maybe it has several different things and none of them are um, uh, fully related, or like that there could be two things that aren't related, and then you're trying to create a connection but struggling to do so, and it sort of get left with a sense of disappointment, or like not disappointment but a sense of that something wasn't resolved, um, that something wasn't didn't have a resolution. But also I'm not sure if that's even a good way to work either. Mm. But that speaks to like a specificity as well,
Yeah, it's true.
that you're speaking of. Mm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, and what I know of improvisational performance as well is they work really hard to do exactly that, to produce a an articulation and a singularity and a specificity that can be sort of readable and manageable and have a good sort of sense of contact. Uh, but maybe I can ask you in relationship to your feelings around what you're watching. Um, do you is it that you want to understand like because as a dancer sometimes the choreographer might have a clear idea, but the dance is a sort of additional element to the idea and can sort of be whatever. Um, and is it is it that that frustrates you when you know the choreographer might have like really mm, yeah a specific reason for what they're doing, but that's held by other things, and the dancing it takes on a sort of filler mode, and that sort of gets given to the like I've seen this before, so I'm curious if that's what you're speaking of, or if it's really more in the um
I think
yeah yeah
I think it's more in the research. It's like, okay, you want me to be busy with this. Is this? And then once I get this, it's a never ending. It's not because even a
mm,
choreography, it doesn't matter. It's not because it's fixed.
yeah
Then it would be fixed. Oh, okay, it's gone, it's done. No, now it starts the real journey.
mm,
Now that I have a directionality, I explore every time more and more.
mm, mm,
And that keep me busy and keep alive the dance
yeah
in that
yeah
sense. But obviously, certain times I do things that I would never myself do it. That
mm,
doesn't mean I'm not interested in that. I just want to make sure that I have to say, no, that's not my value. It's that I'm taking the value of somebody else or something else.
mm,
But just simply because I don't see this what I'm doing, for example, you know,
yeah
like can feel can So in that sense, I just like it's a reposition that I'm, and that's totally fine. I mean, sometimes someone asked me to improvise and maybe it's very clear the improvisation and then they like certain things that I didn't feel,
mm,
and and then they don't like certain other things that I felt like, oh, that fits very well with what you
mm,
asked me, or with my internal value that are already there, the inscribed one that I don't
mm,
change.
mm,
And that's totally fine. No, if together we kind of understand in what and which direction to take.
mm,
Although it's very clear that there will always be my, in the end, it's in the performance, it's my agency. I mean, the choreographer is not
mm,
there. So I do what I think, and I take the responsibility of what I do.
yeah
And then there is the another, a third subject that is watching.
yeah
And this is also again in relation to there. So we have three sort of, and I'm saying three because it's not true, it's much more, but the audience is never one. But just to say that minimum there is 3 point of entering what I
mm,
am performing.
mm,
And that also means multiplicity in the sense that, well, if makes sense for me what I am busy with.
mhm,
And maybe certain part of what makes sense for the choreographer don't make sense, but either good or bad, that doesn't matter.
yeah
So for me, then it's also a plus
mm,
because suddenly, there is something there that
mm,
it makes sense for me and allow me to go into a journey where
mm.
it feels like, you know, the right direction,
Yeah,
knowing that also I can also, oh yeah, the choreographer, it's for the choreographer, it doesn't it doesn't matter
yeah, yeah, yeah,
is yeah there or not.
yeah,
And at the same times, I'm also like, okay, I want to make sure that the for a choreographer, what I'm doing not also
yeah,
going against, in that sense.
yeah,
So this, and then there is this also interpretation of the audience, like what is the third, like
yeah,
watching and what makes sense to it and what do they.
yeah,
So I think in that sense is really the constructed together, maybe something you
yeah.
didn't think about.
No, yeah, I agree. I need to, for me, I feel like it's something that I haven't really resolved or found my way through in a way. It feels as though listening to you talk, as though it's like there's like a it's a delicate play of providing the right conditions, almost psychologically, like that the dancer can be interested, but it's not determined maybe by anything specific. Perhaps it's like an ethos, or it's the way it's presented, or it's the way it's unfolded. It's the way the space is taken care of that provides the conditions for the dancer to find a way of navigating their way through that. And of course, each dancer will be in a different place in relationship to what they can conjure for themselves, what things they can motivate for themselves without the choreographer or with the choreographer. Um, Ron CA speaks. I was reading this a little bit, and I don't fully understand it, but he speaks about how we can never fully talk to each other. We can never truly understand each other. We're just sort of beside each other in a sort of strange way. And yeah, I wonder if there's something at play there that we're just constantly, mm, yeah, trying to be alongside each other, and there's a delicate play and balance that exists to sort of encourage those relationships. Mm,
Yeah, yeah. I think it's about, in a way, it's about miscommunication.
yeah.
Uh, and how much this miscommunication is good to have it.
Hmm.
So what is the amount we have to have
Hmm.
it to actually be in constant
Mm,
research, but also um, creativity,
mm,
like how the spark still makes alive the dance and so
mm,
on. Um, but also give simply multiple access point to the
mm,
audience,
mm,
maybe,
mm.
you know.
Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely. There's yeah. I keep having thoughts and they keep disappearing. Maybe it's too early in the morning, but there's um there's definitely
Because
something there. Say, Yari.
when it's not only about like producing aesthetics that are nice and the term of, like, that produce
Mm,
enjoy and
mm-hmm,
joy, no, or
mm,
would you produce satisfaction
mm,
on yeah, what maybe was considered beauty or enjoy entertain, I don't know.
mm-hmm,
Once we, it's not only this, or maybe it's not this, or maybe this is very only low, I don't know, like then there is all a new word of like how do people access that performance. And
yeah.
this is where I'm like, yes, this is where I am like, it's where I want to be. Uh,
Mm.
like multiplying that possibility for entering what we are doing here now.
Yeah.
And that makes sense that they we find patterns of systems that make feel us go somewhere and think with,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah. And there's so many, like you say, there's so many actors involved in that triadic relationship, public, audience, dancer. And how do they, yeah, how does these notions and concerns for good and um, access truly function in a way? And I think I think I have the question of like, does dance function? What is functioning in dance? Like, because obviously it does. Like, that's a silly question to ask. Like, because of course dance exists, but does it? Um, what like when it does function? Why? Like, what really is that thing that is getting drawn to? And I can't help but be drawn back to what Jonathan Boris says, that uh, the person who learns to play guitar starts learning because they've heard music, whereas the dancer tends to start dancing because they have been dancing. They don't tend to start dancing because they're watching dancing. And there's this strangeness that, you know, dance isn't functioning as a medium uh, for watching, as a spectacle. And so this like division of labor between witness, doer, and creator somehow strikes me as perhaps one of the largest barriers we have to understanding truly what is gained in dance as a spectacle, even as much as a thing that we participate in, because we speak a lot about mirror neurons and so on that fire when people watch dance. And if that's an important aspect to dancing, then surely dancing itself is even more important to watching to what we gain from watching dance. And the sort of dialogue between these insecurities we have around dancing of, do I know what to do? Do I feel like I have the right conditions to dance? Our ability to to improvise maybe without limitations, and um, and what dance is are somehow maybe it's a contentious relationship that it actually needs to be resolved, that we're sort of like we're dealing with on multiple layers. Because in one part, it seems dance is extremely inclusionary. Everyone has a relationship to dance and can have a stronger relationship to dance if they wish. But at the same time, it seems extremely exclusionary simultaneously. And there's something that happens where by not engaging in dance, you're really close to dance, but then by crossing the threshold into starting to engage in dance in a proper way, in a societally understood way, then you start to feel excluded from dance, or you start to have to negotiate this sense of exclusion. Like I speak to people who are the top of their craft, that are extremely amazing dancers will still have huge insecurities around their ability to dance. And somehow this like thread throughout dance of never feeling good enough and yet at the same time recognizing um the sort of instinctual nature of dance, the implicit relationship we have to dance. Like Jonathan Boris says, like um, you desire to dance because you've been dancing, not the other way around, because you've seen dance, and that's sort of like super interesting. Where do these limits come from? Are the limits caused by crossing the threshold into I am now dancing, and then we need greater care? That's when we look to a choreographer to give us a sense of welcoming and support, but at the same time we want to feel challenged. We don't want to feel um, that they're they're just saying yes to everything. We want to have a sense that they have a strong, clear, specific value, that they're then allowing us to step into and to feel separate from someone else that is dancing, to sort of define large values within dance. Yeah, I don't know, Yari. Maybe we should dance.
Oh my God. Thank you, Peter.
And as a sort of prompt, try and be as limited as possible, Yari, even
Okay.
though I am a terrible choreographer in that sense.
No, no, I promise you, I will be limited as possible. Okay.
Yeah, don't move, Yari, but dance as big as possible.
Nice.
I love it. See you soon, Yari.